The rain came down in sheets against the tall windows of Adelaide Cottage, turning the late afternoon into a premature dusk. Inside, the warmth of the fire did little to thaw the ice that had settled in William's stomach. He stood in the doorway of the playroom, watching the scene before him, with a stillness that belied the turmoil within. His eldest daughter, Princess Charlotte, was sitting rigidly on the small velvet-upholstered sofa, her usually bright eyes fixed on the floor, her small hands clenched into fists in her lap. Beside her, looking utterly bewildered, was her younger brother, Louis. Standing over them, a half-finished cup of tea cooling on the low table, was Camilla. The queen consort was smiling, but it was a thin, brittle thing that didn't reach her eyes. She was recounting a story, her voice a performative whisper meant to be engaging. "And so, you see, my darling," Camilla was saying, reaching out to tuck a strand of Charlotte's hair behind her ear, a gesture the child flinched away from. "Your mummy was so terribly busy with her own things, with her speeches and her travels. It was all very important, I'm sure. But when a tiny baby comes along, a baby needs its mother, doesn't it? And your mummy, well, she just wasn't sure she wanted that." The words hung in the air, sharp and jagged. William felt the blood drain from his face. He saw Charlotte's shoulders hitch, a tiny, almost imperceptible movement. Louis looked up at his grandmother, then at his sister, his lower lip beginning to tremble. "But she was so lucky," Camilla continued, her tone brightening artificially, "because she had me. And your papa?" "Ah, of course. We made sure you were looked after, little one. We were the ones who were really there." "That's enough." William's voice was quiet, but it cut through the room like a blade. It wasn't a shout, but the controlled, dangerous calm of a man who has just witnessed an act of profound cruelty. Camilla's head snapped up, a flicker of surprise crossing her features, before she smoothed it into a mask of pleasant innocence. "William, I didn't hear you come in. I was just telling the children a little story about when they were babies." He didn't respond to her. He walked into the room, his eyes solely on his daughter. He knelt before her, his large frame blocking Camilla from her line of sight. "Char," he said, his voice now soft, a gentle caress. "Look at me, my love." Slowly, Charlotte lifted her head. Her blue eyes, and so like his own, were swimming with unshed tears. Her chin was quivering, a physical manifestation of the crack that had just been driven into her young heart. "Papa," she whispered, her voice thick with confusion and hurt, "is it true? Did Mummy not want me?" The question was a physical blow. William felt the air leave his lungs. He pulled his daughter into his arms, holding her tightly, feeling the frantic beat of her heart against his chest. He could feel Louis pressing against his back, seeking the same safety. "No, my darling," he murmured into her hair, his voice thick with emotion. "No, it is not true. Not one single word of it." He held her for a long moment, letting the steady rhythm of his own heartbeat soothe her, before gently pulling back. He cupped her face in his hands, wiping away a tear that had finally escaped. "Your mummy loved you more than anything in the entire world from the very first second she knew you were coming. She wanted you more than she has ever wanted anything. Do you understand me?" Charlotte nodded, a small, hesitant movement. She wanted so desperately to believe him, but the seed of doubt had been planted, and it was already sending out tiny, poisonous roots. She looked over William's shoulder at Camilla, who was now rearranging her expression into one of wounded dignity. "I was just trying to give them some perspective, William," Camilla said, her voice laced with a sigh of martyrdom. "Children build up such fantastical ideas in their heads. I thought a little dose of reality would be—" "Leave," William said, the single word as cold and hard as granite. He didn't turn around. He didn't need to. William, really. "There's no need for this kind of dramatics. I am the queen consort, and I am their grandmother. I have every right—" He rose to his feet then, and turned. The look in his eyes made Camilla take an involuntary step back. It was a look she had never seen on his face before. A primal, paternal fury that stripped away all protocol, all pretense. It was the look of a man protecting his cub. "You have no rights here," he said, his voice a low growl. "Not tonight. Not ever again if you think you can speak to my children like that. Leave. Now." For a moment, the air crackled with tension. Camilla's jaw tightened, a flicker of something ugly crossing her face before she composed herself. She picked up her handbag, straightened her spine, and walked towards the door, her heels clicking on the wooden floor. As she passed William, she paused. Had her voice a low murmur meant only for him. "You can't protect them from the truth forever, you know. The world knows it, the firm knows it, and soon enough they will too." She didn't wait for a response. The click of the front door a few moments later was the only sound. The silence she left behind was deafening. William turned back to his children. Louis's face was crumpled, and he was now crying silently. William scooped him up, holding him in one arm, and reached for Charlotte's hand with the other. "Come on, you two," he said, his voice still thick but striving for normalcy. "Let's go find Granny. I think we need a story before bed." They found Carol Middleton in the cozy kitchen, a batch of biscuits cooling on a rack. One look at William's face and the tear-stained cheeks of her grandchildren, and her smile vanished. And she didn't ask questions, not then. She simply opened her arms, and both children ran into them. Over their heads, her eyes met William's, a silent, urgent question in them. He gave a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of his head. "Not now. Later." The bedtime routine that night was a sacred ritual, meticulously observed. It was a thread of normalcy that held them all together. Carol helped Louis with his bath, his giggles a little too loud, a little too forced, while William sat with Charlotte in her room. They read a chapter of her book, but her mind was elsewhere. He could see her replaying the scene in the playroom, trying to make sense of it. When the lights were dimmed and Louis was tucked in, having finally succumbed to exhaustion, William came to Charlotte's room. She was sitting up in her bed, her duvet pulled up to her chin. Story? About when I was a baby?" "William's story. About when I was a baby." William glanced at Carol. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears, but she gave him a firm, encouraging nod. He walked over and sat on the other side of Charlotte's bed. The fire crackled softly in the grate, casting dancing shadows on the walls. This was it. This was the moment he had to carefully, painstakingly dismantle the lie Camilla had so cruelly constructed and replace it with a truth so powerful it would withstand any future assault. He took a deep breath, the scent of lavender from Charlotte's pillow filling his senses. He thought of the woman he loved, the mother of his children, far away, probably just settling down to work after a long day of official duties, and he began to speak. "Well, my darling girl," he started, his voice a low, gentle murmur, "the real story doesn't begin with speeches and travels. It begins with a secret, and the happiest tears I have ever seen." He looked at Charlotte, ensuring he had her full attention. Her eyes were wide, searching his face for the truth. "Your mummy and I had been married for a while, and we wanted a family more than anything. When we found out that your mummy was going to have a baby, it was the most incredible, overwhelming feeling. But we had to keep it a secret for a little while. It was our special secret, just the two of us. And your mummy, she was so happy, Char. She would talk to you all the time, even when you were just the size of a little bean. She'd sing to you and tell you all about the world she couldn't wait to show you. Charlotte's grip on her duvet loosened slightly. But your mummy was very, very sick at the beginning, William continued, his brow furrowing with the memory. It's something called hyperemesis gravidarum. It's not just a little bit of morning sickness. It's being so terribly ill that you can't keep anything down, and you feel weak and exhausted all the time. She was in the hospital, and she had to have medicine and drips to help her. She was so brave, Charlotte, so incredibly brave. She never once complained. She just kept saying, "It's worth it, for our baby." This was a part of the story the sanitized public narratives never told. The grit, the pain, the sheer physical toll. There was a time, William said, his voice dropping even lower, when she was in the hospital and she was very poorly. I was so scared, and I was sitting beside her bed holding her hand. She was so tired, but she looked at me with these huge, tired eyes, and she whispered, "William, promise me you'll tell our baby how much I wanted them. Promise me they'll know that every single second of being sick was worth it. Just to have them." A tear slipped down Carol's cheek. She didn't wipe it away. That's how much she wanted you, my love. Even when she was at her very worst, her only thought was of you. She wasn't off doing speeches and tours. She was in a hospital bed, fighting to be strong so she could be your mummy. William paused, letting the image settle. He could see Charlotte's mind working, replacing the poisonous picture Camilla had painted with this new one of her mother's profound, but when they put you in her arms, But when they put you in her arms, she just lit up. It was like the sun had come out. She counted your tiny fingers and your tiny toes over and over again. She couldn't stop staring at you. We both couldn't. We just held you between us and cried. Happy tears. So many happy tears. She looked at me and she said, "Hello, our little one. We've been waiting for you for so long." She didn't say she was busy. She didn't say she wasn't sure. She said she'd been waiting for you. For her whole life. Waiting for you. He looked directly into Charlotte's eyes. Those first few weeks, your mummy didn't leave your side. She didn't want anyone else to hold you. Not even me for too long. She would just sit and hold you and sing to you and marvel at you. Every little sound you made, every little yawn, every little frown. She thought you were the most perfect, miraculous creature in the whole world. Because you were. You are. The words tumbled out, a dam of love bursting forth to wash away the venom. He told her about the private moments the press never saw, about the way Catherine would get up for every single night feed, refusing to let anyone else do it, just so she could have that quiet time with her baby girl, about the lullabies she'd softly sing, the ones her own mother had sung to her, about the way she'd trace the outline of Charlotte's face as she slept, whispering promises of all the adventures they would have. He told her about the first time Catherine took her to the garden at Anmer Hall, laying a blanket on the grass and placing baby Charlotte on it. She wanted your first feeling of the world to be the sun on your face and the soft grass beneath you, William said. She talked to you about the flowers and the bees and the trees. She wanted you to love nature as much as she does. He spoke of the panic when Charlotte had her first fever, a tiny temperature that sent them both into a tailspin of worry, rushing her to the doctor, not leaving her bedside for a moment until it broke. Your mummy didn't sleep for 2 days, he said. She just held you and cooled your forehead and told you over